Words can start wars, but questions end them. Ask the wrong one and you'll provoke chaos. Ask the right one and you'll dismantle illusions. That's the paradox of power. The tongue divides, but the mind that questions unites. Socrates, the man who never lost a single debate, not because he was always right, but because he never entered a debate to win. While others exhausted themselves defending fragile opinions, he calmly asked questions. Each one, sharp as a blade, sliced through ego and exposed truth. He never shouted. He never tried to look intelligent. His strength was silence and reason, weapons only the disciplined can wield. And today, I'll give you 5 questions forged from the same Socratic method. Master them, and you won't just win debates. You'll command conversations, navigate conflict, and understand people on a level most never reach. But remember, this power isn't for those who crave attention. It's for those who crave mastery of others and of themselves. Before we dive into the 5 questions, let's uncover why asking always defeats arguing, and why these 5 questions are so devastatingly effective. When someone argues, they expose themselves. They build a tower of words, but every tower can fall if one brick at its foundation is removed. The questioner doesn't build towers. They dig. They dig into the roots of belief, and when the ground gives way, the entire structure collapses. A question is invisible, yet it carries the force of truth. You can't lose when you ask. A statement can be wrong. A genuine question cannot be wrong. Here's the psychological edge. Arguments make people defensive. Questions make them think. Socrates understood this. He knew the ego always wants to be right, so instead of attacking it, he guided others to trace the map of their own reasoning. And when they reached the end of that map, they realized the ground beneath them was only sand. It was never about victory. It was about freedom. Freedom from illusion. Question 1. Is this within my control? Imagine this. You're standing in the middle of an argument that's spiraling out of control. Your voice is rising. Your heart is pounding, and your mind is searching for the perfect comeback. You want to prove your point, to make them see how wrong they are. But deep down, you already feel it. That burning frustration that comes from fighting what you can't control. This is where Stoic philosophy steps in, with one question that cuts through the noise like a blade through fog. Is this within my control? Epictetus, one of the great Stoic teachers, said that the foundation of emotional mastery begins with understanding what's truly ours to command, and what isn't. He taught that some things depend on us, our actions, our thoughts, our choices. Everything else, what others say, what they think, how they treat us, does not. Now picture this. You're in a heated discussion with a coworker. They twist your words, accuse you of something you didn't mean, and you feel that spark ignite. You're seconds away from reacting, but suddenly you remember the Stoic mindset. You take a deep breath and ask yourself quietly, is this within my control? Instantly, something shifts. You realize you can't control their opinion, their emotions, or their judgment, but you can control how you respond. You can choose calm over chaos, silence over shouting, inner peace over ego. That single question, small as it seems, transforms the entire situation. This is the essence of Stoic wisdom, the art of controlling yourself, not the world. When you stop fighting to control the uncontrollable, you begin to win battles that actually matter. Peace of mind, dignity, emotional strength. Marcus Aurelius wrote in his journal, "You have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this, and you will find strength." It's a shield, a mental armor that protects you from the storms stirred by toxic people and irrational arguments. So the next time someone provokes you, when they insult you, ignore you, or try to manipulate you, pause. Ask that question again, is this within my control? And if the answer is no, walk away, not in defeat, but in power, because no argument can destroy the person who's mastered self-control. Stoicism teaches us that emotional freedom isn't about winning arguments, it's about mastering our reactions. When you anchor yourself in reason and detach from what's beyond your reach, you stop being a puppet pulled by emotion. You become the calm within the storm, unshaken, centered, and free. Remember, every moment you choose to control your emotions instead of letting emotions control you, you practice the highest form of Stoic mastery. The one that Epictetus and Marcus Aurelius lived by. Inner peace through disciplined thought. And that's how the question, "Is this within my control?" quietly destroys every argument before it even begins. Question 2. What evidence do you have? Picture this. You're sitting across from someone who's attacking your character. Maybe it's a colleague spreading rumors, a friend accusing you of something you didn't do, or even a partner twisting your words into something darker. Your pulse quickens, your chest tightens, and your thoughts race with one goal: to defend yourself. But the more you explain, the less they listen. You realize you're not in a conversation, you're in a trap. This is where Stoic philosophy hands you one of its most powerful tools, the question that disarms manipulation and forces truth. To step into the light, what evidence do you have? Marcus Aurelius wrote, "If someone is mistaken, instruct them kindly and show them the truth. But if you can't, accept that it is not your duty to convince them." Stoicism teaches us that reason is the highest weapon of emotional intelligence, and this question, calm, clear, surgical, slices through emotional chaos like reason through fire. Let's turn this into a story. You're at work. A co-worker corners you after a meeting, claiming you've been bad-mouthing them behind their back. You could explode, deny, or shout, but that's exactly what they want. They want chaos. Instead, you steady your breath and say, "What evidence do you have?" Silence. Because now the emotional fire they started has no oxygen left. You've forced them out of emotion and into logic. And logic is where the Stoic mind thrives. The Stoic mindset isn't about silence or weakness. It's about power through clarity. By asking for evidence, you're not only protecting your integrity, you're reminding yourself that truth doesn't need to shout. Truth simply is. Epictetus once said, "When someone tries to provoke you, remember, it is not the person who insults you that disturbs your peace, but your judgment of that insult." Asking for evidence shifts your judgment from emotional reaction to rational observation. It transforms an argument into an examination of truth. Think about it. Toxic people rely on assumptions, exaggerations, and emotional manipulation. They thrive in the fog of uncertainty. But when you calmly ask, What evidence do you have? You switch on the light. The fog disappears, and so does their power. This question is your shield. It embodies Stoic self-control, emotional discipline, and the courage to seek reason over rage. It's not confrontation, it's calm investigation. Every time you ask it, you train your mind to value truth more than victory. And that is the essence of Stoic philosophy, to stand rooted in reason while the world shouts around you. So next time someone comes at you with accusations, gossip, or emotional games, don't fight fire with fire. Ask the question that melts. Falsehoods. What evidence do you have? Because a Stoic doesn't argue to win. A Stoic questions to understand, and in doing so, destroys lies without raising their voice. Question 3. Does this matter in the long run? Imagine you're standing in the kitchen, arguing over something small. Maybe your partner forgot to call, or your co-worker didn't reply fast enough. The words start to fly, the tension builds, and suddenly this tiny spark becomes a wildfire. You can feel your heart pounding, your pride rising, and your calm slipping away. But then, somewhere deep inside, a quiet voice asks, does this really matter in the long run? That single question is the essence of Stoic philosophy. It is the mind's anchor when emotion threatens to drag you into the storm. Marcus Aurelius, the philosopher king, often wrote about perspective. He would remind himself that even emperors are just brief visitors in the flow of time, that today's anger, no matter how consuming, becomes dust tomorrow. When you ask, does this matter in the long run? You are stepping outside the moment, looking at life through the wide lens of Stoic wisdom. Let's turn it into a story. You're driving and someone cuts you off. Your immediate reaction? Anger. You grip the wheel tighter, shout inside your head, maybe even out loud. But then imagine if you asked yourself, in a week will I even remember this? The anger dissolves because you've seen the illusion. The moment that felt massive was actually microscopic. Stoicism teaches that most of what we fight over is temporary. Ego battles, emotional wounds, trivial frustrations. The Stoic mindset is to measure everything by time and importance. Epictetus once said, "It is not things that disturb us, but our opinions about them." The moment you question whether something matters in the long run, you filter out the noise. You see what's worth your energy and what isn't. Think about toxic arguments with manipulative people, co-workers, or even family members. They feed on urgency, on making you react now. But when you pause and ask this question, you're no longer reacting, you're reflecting. You pull yourself out of the emotional trap. That's emotional mastery. That's Stoic control. Seneca called this the art of the delay. He wrote that no wise person rushes into anger because wisdom knows that time itself reveals truth. When you zoom out far enough, almost every conflict becomes insignificant. So the next time you're pulled into an argument, pause. Imagine yourself 1 year from now, looking back at this moment. Does it still matter? Does this argument build your character, your peace, your purpose, or does it simply drain your energy? Stoicism isn't about being cold. It's about being wise enough to choose what deserves your emotion. Not every hill is worth dying on. Not every battle deserves your peace. So ask yourself, does this matter in the long run? And if it doesn't, let it go. Walk away not because you're weak, but because you value your serenity more than your ego. That's the power of Stoic perspective, to live above the noise, anchored in inner peace, guided by timeless calm. Question 4. What's the right thing to do, not the easy thing? There's a moment in every argument when your pride whispers, "Get even." You want to hurt back, to prove a point, to make them feel what you felt. The easy thing is to react. The hard thing, the Stoic thing, is to pause and ask, what's the right thing to do, not the easy thing? This question is the dividing line between chaos and character. It's what separates those controlled by emotion from those guided by virtue. Imagine this. You're in a heated conversation with someone you care about. They say something that cuts deep, something unfair. Your instinct is to snap back, to defend yourself. But you stop. You hear the echo of Seneca's wisdom. It is a great thing to know the season for speech and the season for silence. You take a breath and ask yourself, what's the right thing to do? Not the easy thing. The right thing might be to stay silent, to walk away, or to respond with calm clarity instead of rage. The easy thing is to let anger speak for you. But Stoic philosophy reminds us that anger always spends more than it earns. Epictetus taught that virtue is the only true good. Not power, not reputation, not winning the argument, but doing what's right, even when it's hard. That's the foundation of the Stoic mindset. Moral discipline over emotional impulse. Let's bring this to life. Picture yourself in a workplace conflict. Someone takes credit for your effort. You feel betrayed, humiliated. You could gossip, complain, or retaliate, the easy things. But then you remember the Stoic path. You choose to rise above it. You hold your dignity, speak your truth when it's necessary, and let time, not emotion, reveal the truth. That's not weakness. That's strength disguised as silence. Marcus Aurelius wrote in his Meditations, "If it is not right, do not do it. If it is not true, do not say it." This is the compass that keeps us stoic from being lost in emotional storms. When you follow what's right, you no longer need to argue. Your actions become your response. The Stoic approach to conflict is not to dominate, but to demonstrate. To show through your behavior what control, honor, and emotional mastery look like. In a world where everyone reacts, being calm is rebellion. Yes, doing the right thing often feels like losing. It means swallowing your pride, letting go of validation, or walking away when your ego screams to stay. But every time you choose what's right over what's easy, you build an inner fortress, one no argument can tear down. So the next time you're cornered by anger or provoked by toxic people, pause. Ask yourself quietly, what's the right thing to do, not the easy thing? Because Stoicism isn't about appearing strong. It's about being strong enough to do what's right, even when the world tempts you to do otherwise. That's the Stoic way. Virtue over victory, wisdom over impulse, peace over pride. Question 5. If I were wise, how would I respond? There's a silence that comes right before you say something you'll regret. A pause where your mind and emotions wrestle for control. In that tiny gap between impulse and response lies the power of Stoic philosophy. And it begins with this question: if I were wise, how would I respond? This question isn't about pretending to be perfect. It's about choosing self-mastery over self-destruction. It's about pausing long enough to let wisdom, not emotion, take the lead. Picture this: you're arguing with someone close to you, maybe a friend, a partner, or a co-worker. They throw a cruel comment your way, something designed to hurt. Your instinct is to fire back, to defend yourself, to strike where it stings. But then, before your lips move, you breathe. You hear Marcus Aurelius whisper through time, "The best revenge is not to be like your enemy." So you ask yourself, if I were wise, how would I respond? The answer almost always comes softly, as with calm, not chaos. With understanding, not pride, you realize that your peace is worth more than proving your point. That real strength isn't loud, it's quiet. In Stoic philosophy, wisdom isn't about intelligence. It's about alignment, aligning your actions with your values, even under pressure. It's the emotional intelligence to respond as your higher self, not your wounded self. Epictetus taught that our true power lies not in controlling others, but in governing our own reactions. When you ask, "If I were wise, how would I respond?" you interrupt the reflex of anger. You choose awareness. You remind yourself that reacting with calm doesn't mean you accept disrespect. It means you refuse to be pulled down to their level. Let's bring it to life. Imagine someone insults you publicly, maybe online, maybe face-to-face. The crowd watches, waiting for your reaction. Your ego screams for revenge. But then you pause. You picture your wiser self, calm, grounded, unshaken. You smile, say nothing, and walk away. That moment of restraint radiates more power than any comeback ever could. Seneca once said, "He who angers you conquers you." And that's what this question protects you from, surrendering your peace to someone else's chaos. Every time you ask this question, you strengthen your inner fortress, the Stoic mindset that transforms emotional pain into personal growth. You stop reacting as a victim and start responding as a master of your own mind. So next time the world tests your patience, don't rush to speak. Don't rush to fight. Ask instead, "If I were wise, how would I respond?" Then do that, because wisdom isn't loud. It doesn't need to win. It simply understands. And through that understanding, it conquers. That's the essence of Stoic philosophy: emotional control, self-awareness, and the calm strength to act with reason when everyone else acts from reaction. When you choose wisdom, the argument ends and peace begins.